So next presenter will be Bill Wiidcock, and він розкаже про систему Anycast і фірму, яка надає такі послуги, і дуже сприяла нашій стабільності нашого домену. Будь ласка.
I'm very sorry about the order of things. My apologies. An hour from now, I'm supposed to be on the other side of Paris. So I wanted to just quickly give my congratulations on the momentous occasion of your 30th anniversary. I wanted to pay my respects to a few of the milestones that have occurred during that time. Packet Clearinghouse, the organization that I direct, has been providing the Anycast DNS service to the .ua domain and registry for the past 18 years, since 2004. During that time, Ukraine's gone from having 3% of its population online to more than 75% of its population online, despite immense challenges. The Ukrainian CCTLD has adopted security best practices at a very rapid rate. DNSSEC signed in April of 2012, more than a decade ago now, in the first 25% of the world's countries. So among the largest and most developed countries, Ukraine was right in the middle of that group. One of the things that Packet Clearinghouse does, we provide support to the domain name system, but we also provide support to internet exchange points. And so we monitor the progress of internet exchange points. We measure the amount of bandwidth that is being produced, internet bandwidth being produced in internet exchange points around the world. And we track this as a measure of economic development. And during that time, we've seen Ukraine build new internet exchange points, and the existing internet exchange points in Ukraine growing substantially. And so the total amount of bandwidth produced in Ukraine has been growing year over year. And Ukraine is now the number 7 producer of internet bandwidth of all countries in the world, and has been in that spot, number 7, now for, I believe, 4 years. That's despite being number 16 in number of internet exchange points, which means that each of the Ukrainian internet exchange points is producing a lot more bandwidth than average, or a lot more bandwidth than average for even countries bigger than Ukraine. It's also notable that during the last few years, Ukraine has bypassed, or has exceeded the amount of bandwidth produced by its neighbors, Poland and Russia, even though, these are very large countries that have other kinds of advantages. There are other measures. Several people have said that people are the biggest asset of an organization, of a country. And one of the other soft measures, a less tangible measure of Ukraine's success, is Ukraine's complete dominance of platforms like Upwork, which allow Ukrainian programmers to do contract work throughout the world, supporting many, many companies in countries all around the world. I know that several of the programmers that we've depended on to get work done have had to take time off to participate in the defense of your country. There are a couple of other measures or relevant things that I can bring to your attention. one of the things that Dmitry was very worried about at the beginning of the conflict, when we first started talking about this in February, was that the UA domain would come under significant DDoS attack from Russia. And indeed, cybersecurity experts all over the world believed that Russia would bring significant cyber offense against Ukraine. And so we were prepared for this, but it never really materialized. The Russians were never able to bring a significant cyber attack against the servers that we operate. Where we did see a significant Russian attack, though, was not against the central infrastructure, but against Ukrainian individuals. So one of the projects that Packet Clearinghouse has done is a defensive recursive resolver. This is a DNS resolver that answers queries for individual users while filtering malicious attacks. So malware and phishing attacks don't get answered, but legitimate queries do get answered. So in this way, it helps protect users. And we have millions of users in Ukraine and the surrounding countries. So we're able to see statistics about the degree of malware and phishing attacks against individuals in those countries. We don't collect data about the individuals, but we do collect statistics about the number of attacks. And let me see if I can share the screen. I'll just do the whole thing. No, I can't. I'm sorry. Zoom has permissions issues. But basically, what I was going to show was a graph of the number of phishing attacks that were blocked by Quad9 servers starting on the 6th of March. The number of phishing attacks against Ukrainian users increased 30-fold in the course of a day, increased by a factor of 30. So we saw 30 times more phishing attacks being blocked on our servers in Kiev, but also 10 to 15 times more on the servers in Krakow and Warsaw, right? So at that time, there were many people fleeing Ukraine, to protect their families. And so we were able to see that exodus as the number of Ukrainian language phishing attacks being blocked increased on our other servers throughout Europe. So I think this has been an unfortunate characteristic of this war all along. Too much it has, all war is bad, but war that targets civilians is worse. And you have our complete sympathy in that. The other effort that we've been making has been around the use of the internet to enable sanctions. And as you may recall, very early in the conflict, the Ukrainian government requested that Russia's CCTLD and IP addresses be revoked. And both of those requests were denied by RIPE and by ICANN. The requests were denied without much detail. And indeed, probably that was not the best mechanism to implement sanctions against Russia. But it is also the case that the internet is mature now, and that there should be a mechanism by which the internet can enable sanctions, just as the banking system can enable sanctions, just as the bank accounts of Russian oligarchs are frozen overseas. The internet should be able to disable access to sanctioned entities. And so we, working together with a number of other organizations and people who have helped found the internet have gotten a open project to make this capability uniform across the internet. In the course of that, what we discovered is that the biggest problem is not on the internet side. The internet blocks all kinds of malicious attacks all the time. In Quad 9 alone, we block about 4 million malicious domains every day, with about 400,000 new ones entering the list and leaving each day. So by comparison with that, the few thousand, about 10,000 sanctioned entities in the world is a small number. So the internet is easily capable of enacting sanctions. The difficult part is that countries don't publish their sanctions in machine-readable form. And because so many of the names of sanctioned entities are transliterated between languages, it's almost impossible to clearly identify which entities are sanctioned. So one of the activities that we've been doing with the OECD is to create a process within the OECD to get national governments to harmonize their sanctions publication and make it available electronically so that internet service providers can ingest that data and enact sanctions that would otherwise be impossible to do. So, in short, I cannot express the depth of the sympathy that we, PCH's staff, have for all of you. You are doing very difficult work in a very difficult time, and you are keeping a population connected to the world that cares about them. And we all appreciate that. And I'm very, very sorry for the troubles that you're having to cope with. So congratulations on 30 years. And I hope the next 30 years will be much easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. I hope for the best.